evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Causeway, for having us here tonight. We really appreciate this. My name is Bergen Aldair. I'm with the Partnership for Families, Children, and Adults. For those of you who aren't familiar with PFCA, we are the oldest and largest social service agency in our area. Last year, we served over 45,000 people through 5 centers of service: elder services, youth services, deaf services, stability services, and crisis services, which I'm going to talk about more tonight. We have heard really challenging, complex, heartbreaking problems faced by my colleagues tonight. And every single one of them is so deserving of a really good answer. But tonight I really want to challenge you to think about an issue that knows no neighborhood. It has no zip code because it lives in every zip code, and that's sexual violence. Did you know that 1 in 5 girls will be the victim of sexual assault? 1 in 6 men will have encountered abusive sexual contact and experiences before the age of 18. 12 to 32-year-olds are at the greatest risk of being assaulted. 94%, guys, listen to this, 94% of victims experience post-traumatic stress disorder. That is more than any crime and more than veterans of war. Victims are 10 times more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. 33% of female victims will contemplate suicide, while 13% will attempt it. It's really difficult for me, given these statistics, to explain to you what a typical client of ours would look like. Because like I said, this happens everywhere and it could be anyone. But sometimes it's a little bit easier to put a face to it, right? So if you need a face, it's me. I was assaulted. I was raped my freshman year of college. And it was horrible. And I wish, like anything, there had been a partnership in my community, and here's why. When it comes to sexual assault, this is what we're doing about it. We operate the only rape crisis center and domestic violence shelter, but for the purposes of this, rape crisis center in our community with a 24/7 crisis hotline. We service everyone in Marion County and Hamilton County. All of our services are free. We provide confidential private exams in our own office, 24/7, anytime you need that. We have counseling regardless of when your assault occurred. We have victim advocates. We have an interdisciplinary team, the sexual assault response team, that's comprised of attorneys and investigators and caseworkers, making sure that these cases that do go to court don't get lost in the system. But in my case and in many others, I didn't understand what it was. You know, I was not a Fulbright scholar, but I'm well educated, and I didn't know what rape was. I had to Google that. And if that sounds really shocking to you, it's actually very common. And we don't have to look any further than Ottawa High School, where students, parents, teachers, and law enforcement were equally ill-equipped with the knowledge of what sexual assault is. So my question to you is this: how do we bring age-appropriate sexual assault education to every child, starting at an early age, in Hamilton and Marion County? I wish that the solution was as easy as just taking this straight down to the Department of Education and saying, this is not acceptable. You know, you hear these statistics, this isn't okay. But it's not. So there's a Tennessee state law called the Gateway Law. And the Gateway Law bans access into public schools to have any conversation of sexual assault. Now, we know rape is not sex. We know sexual assault is not sex. This is a crime, it's a power crime. But Gateway Law is still blocking our access into public schools. And if you're wondering about the name, so alcohol is the gateway to other things like drugs, right? And by this law, hand-holding, kissing is the gateway to sex. So that's a big problem for us. That's a big deterrent. How do we work with that? Some other constraints that we have. The education really needs to be trauma-informed and incorporate both genders. It's got to be gender inclusive, age appropriate, and based off of a comprehensive model. So in other words, we're not just saying Okay, girls, learn self-defense. And guys, practice the bystander model. No, no, no. It's going to take a lot of approaches. This is a really multifaceted problem that's going to take everybody coming together. Then lastly, we are a nonprofit, so limited staff capacity and budget are always an issue. In conclusion, I just want to thank you all so much for taking the time to acquaint yourself with this issue and partnership. As a survivor with a deep personal mission to see this cured in our community, I can't wait to hear what you come up with. On behalf of an organization that has that exact same goal, thank you so much for listening and taking your time.